It really does sound like such a far-fetched thing, such a woo-woo and out there thing to say that we live on a prison planet. Especially if you look out my window, right? It looks, well, kind of free. And I could walk out my gate at any time and down the road and pretty much anywhere that my little legs could carry me. So the idea that we live on a prison planet is really one of the last ideas that really becomes apparent to us. And that is part of the perfection of the design. Because if you wanted to create a prison where nobody would escape, you would need to ensure that nobody knew that they were a prisoner, because you can only seek to escape a jail when you know that you're in jail. But when you have the illusion of freedom, you're never going to want to escape. When you have the illusion of you being at the pinnacle of creation, the cutting edge of technology, why would anything trigger you to going beyond that? This video might just be that for you. My name is Kerry K. This is part of a series called Cosmic Origins. The first part was called Who is God? And you might want to watch that one because it's going to make what I'm saying make a lot more sense. You can watch it afterwards, but it would be a good idea. The false matrix and the organic matrix, that's something that I spoke about in the previous one. So we've got this false or inorganic matrix that we are participating in, and a lot of people say, why? Why would anyone have come here? We've got these dark creator beings who created this false matrix. Why, first of all, did they need a populace who are the prisoners of this planet? Why would they need prisoners? Remember that darkness cannot create on its own. It can manipulate and it can engineer. And as engineers and manipulators, what they can do is kind of static. Think about that. It doesn't have the raw juice of creation, which you and I have as beings who are still connected to and even aligned with our natural creation template. There's no such thing as a passive observer. There's no such thing as me observing or even listening to something passively unless I'm in a heightened state of neutrality. It's not possible. We have a knee-jerk response, which is why people are getting more and more triggered. We have knee-jerk responses to what we listen to, what we perceive, what we understand, what we feel about things. Even the words that we don't speak becomes a creation signal, becomes creation itself. At this point, there's a very good video that you might want to watch on my channel about how to manifest reality, because I think some of you are going to ask that question. Whoa, if my unconscious thoughts are busy creating, then what am I supposed to do about them? Go watch that video about creation. I'll link it in the video description box for you. But nonetheless, every single thought that you think, every single word that you hear, not just the words that you speak, but the words that you hear, become a response within you or a reaction within you unless you've attuned yourself to a very high state of consciousness called neutrality. Not numbness, but neutrality. If you're there, then it's different. But most human beings aren't. In fact, I would venture to say 99.9% of humanity is not there, which means that we become unconscious creators. We're given, if you want to think of it like this, cue cards. And those cue cards cause responses and reactions and ideas, which becomes the juice of creation. So without us, you'd have a very static environment. You would not only have a very static environment, you would have an environment without a food source, a fuel source. And what I mean by that is these beings of darkness, because they're separate to creation, again, the Who is God video covers this. Because they're separate to creation, what they need is some kind of energy. It's not food as you and I would eat a pizza, right? It is an energy source that they need, and we happen to be that energy. They're dependent, much to their dismay. They're dependent on that energy that is humanity, that is the food source, so to speak. So this is the job, the role of the prisoners. It's to create on behalf of the prison guards, and it's also to provide the prison guards with a food or a fuel or an energy source that they consume to keep themselves sustained, to keep themselves alive. Isn't that an interesting thing? Gosh, didn't we all think that darkness was such a big, scary monster? Didn't we all think that darkness was so powerful? Except they can't sustain themselves without food. And we just happen, or our energy just happens to be exactly that food source. So the next question you might ask is, who would volunteer to be a part of this? If everything is free will, how could prisoners volunteer and say, yes, please, I want to come and be a prisoner? How would that have happened? Well, because it wasn't sold or marketed, and I do use those words purposefully. It wasn't presented as a prison planet. It wasn't presented in that way. It was presented as an opportunity for you to play in a type of creation. And God source creator beings love to play in creation because this is where expansion and growth occurs. Expansion and growth is really what motivates all beings of creation. And they said, but hold on a minute, if I come into this jail, this, and I say it in inverted commas, this prison planet, if I come in there, how do I leave? Can I leave? Because that would be kind of the first thing you would ask. And they would have said the truth, which is yes. You can leave at any time. You're free to leave. Hotel California. For those of you that go and listen to the lyrics of that song, you can leave at any time. But here is the thing. You forget that you can leave at any time. Because you forget that there is a frequency of you, a version of you that is beyond your current experience. And you didn't know that that was going to happen. You didn't know that that was possible, that that even could happen, that you could descend, that you could experience so much trauma and so much darkness that you would forget who you are so completely and so totally that you would forget that you could leave, that you would forget to ask to leave, that you would forget that you needed to be at a specific resonance to leave. So in other words, you can leave at any time when you're at a particular resonance. So the job of the dark controllers was, we've got to keep them under that resonance. And I want you to think of it this way. I want you to think of their plot to keep humanity under a certain resonance field that would allow their return. I want you to look at it as your wings being clipped so that you can't fly away. You can't leave. That is this idea of fallen consciousness. We are the fallen ones in that we have fallen out of connection to the truth of who we are, to the winged beings that we are. And these are not literal wings, just so you know. This is a metaphor that I'm using. You can leave at any time at a certain vibrational frequency. You never thought that it was possible for you to drop in density to the place that you're at right now. So there were those that populated the prison planet as free will prisoners, for want of a better way of saying it. And then there are those who are here, part of the prison planet, and that I suspect is somebody like you, who looked at this whole thing taking place and said, well, that's not okay. That's very, very not okay. I'm going to come in and participate in this, which I could best describe as the Earth experiment. I'm going to come in and lift up the vibrational frequency from the inside to help elevate those who are stuck here, those who forgot who they are, forgot to ask for their wings back, forgot that they can put their wings back on. I'm going to put my wings back on. In other words, I'm going to raise my frequency, because here's the thing about the prison. The prison is set up to have 4 walls, like pretty much most prison cells do. And these are the restrictions and constrictions, and you can apply them to you, the individual, or to the collective consciousness. To you at the individual level, your individual jail is going to be the systems that control you. Perhaps it's the banking system, the political system, the schooling system, whatever it is that inhibits you in your life. All the reasons why you can't do what you want to do in your life becomes a part of these 4 walls. Ultimately, these 4 walls are a vibrational frequency. And you break these 4 walls down, not with a hammer and a chisel, not by fighting, not by pushing, not by resisting. That is very important information. But by looking up. Because when you look up, that's the equivalent of you raising your frequency and realizing there was never a roof. There was never a ceiling. Because free will was and is a part of the system that you're in. You can always elevate your consciousness. That was always part of this grand design. You just forgot to look up. In other words, you forgot to connect. You forgot how to connect to the higher dimensional being that you are. There's another upcoming video called Who is the Antichrist? I really want you to wait for that video. It's coming out in a few episodes' time. It's part of this Cosmic Origins series. That's really going to give you a very vital piece of information. But for now, I want you to understand that looking up. connects you to your higher consciousness, which you embody. And when you embody it, guess what happens? You begin to radiate a light, and the light that you radiate begins to melt the walls. Why it does that, and why you don't need a hammer and a chisel, is because your frequency collapses the prison, collapses the false matrix. This is how the false matrix collapses, and this is how it's not just a jailbreak that we've come here to stage, it is a collapsing of the entire system that we've come here to participate in. And when we collapse the system into rubble, that rubble reveals the ground of true earth, in other words, of the divine matrix that was always underpinning everything. We have come to restore the divine matrix. We will take the rubble of the false matrix, and from that rubble, we will rebirth and recatalyze ourselves as beings of light and our return to divinity. So think of it as a melting of darkness, a collapsing or a melting of darkness into its original substance, which is the pure creator, God, light, the divine matrix. So do you live on a prison planet? Absolutely. Are you stuck in the prison planet? No, but you do have the illusion of being stuck. Can you leave at any time? Yes. Make sure to watch the upcoming Antichrist video to give you more information about that. Yes, though. I want you to know that you're so much more than you could ever have dared to imagine you are. You're so much freer, wiser, more powerful, more energetically potent. You, for goodness sakes, you are an infinite being of infinite potential, under the illusion that you're just a lowly human being, just a mere mortal. Those are the four walls of the jail cell. That's the false matrix. That's exactly what you've come here to collapse. So it's not a grandiosity that makes you rise into that light. It's not a supremacy that makes you rise into that light. It's not a sense of you being better than. It is a very real and humble connection to your truth. A very real, powerful, soft, gentle connection to the light that you just are. And when you reconnect to that, the ripple of who you are dissolves who you are not. It's very important to know that in the false matrix, you needed an ego in order to navigate that false matrix. If you arrived into the false matrix as your divine true self, you would have collapsed the whole system long ago. And that was never part of the plan. Part of the plan was that we were all going to have this, think of it as a game of play pretend. We were all going to have this game of play pretend, and your ticket out was your raising of consciousness. You were always going to need a part of you that would have to forget who you are, that being the ego, to allow you to navigate in this world. But does that mean you need the ego? No. Does that mean that the ego is God created? No. It means that the ego is created by the false gods, the dark beings, call them the archons. Stay tuned for more videos in the series on cosmic origins. I so look forward to sharing them with you. Lots of love, everyone. Make sure to like this video. Please do that, and subscribe so that you can get notifications of the rest of the series. Lots of love. Bye-bye for now.